everything that happens with them happens, he's so dumbstruck. He's like, I know you've been coming on to me. You've been helping me. She's like, because you're my boyfriend's brother.
Right.
She says that to him. She goes, she's like, I love Ryan. Like, I love him. Like, why are you doing this? Hello, everyone. This is Alex.
And this is Anne.
Welcome to the latest episode of The Good, the Bad, the Basic.
This is the podcast for nostalgic Gen X and millennials and binge watchers of all ages.
On this podcast, we'll be discussing what we love, what we hate, and what was just a bit problematic about the TV and movies we're addicted to.
And do a little bit of rewriting where necessary.
Today's episode is part 2 of our recap of Fox's hit teen drama, The O.C.
As Alex mentioned in our last episode, The O.C. is the blueprint for many modern-day teen dramas.
With this series, the magic was in the details. From dialogue to wardrobe and makeup to camera angles and scenery, The O.C. was beautiful in every stage, from writing to execution.
This love letter to Orange County and Newport Beach is an iconic piece of pop culture.
So what do we think of the latter of the series? Stay tuned. Season 2.
Right.
Season 2, you can talk about season 2. Where did we end up in season 2?
Well, it's season 1. Ryan ends up leaving because Teresa, his one of his prospective love interests and his ex from back home in Chino, tells him that she's pregnant. And in this season, we also learned that Teresa was being physically abused by her fiance, Eddie. Why did this girl have a fiance at 17 years old before she even knew about the pregnancy? Inquiring minds want to know. Why isn't Teresa in school? Inquiring minds want to know. But that's what it is. Ryan decides to step up and, do right by her and help her take care of the baby, whom we're not even certain is his yet. And Seth is so in his feelings that Seth runs away from home.
Well, she tells him it's his. She tells him it's his baby.
Oh, you're right. We, the audience, don't know. But yes, she does tell Ryan it's his baby.
Yeah. And so Ryan decides to leave Newport and to do the right thing.
Because he's a fixer.
He's a fixer. Ryan decides that he's going to do the right thing and he goes back to Chino. He leaves Newport. He drops out of school and he gets a construction job, working construction. And season 2 sort of picks up with Seth, I guess, being sad that his best friend is now gone. This person that I guess really changed Seth's life, changed the trajectory of Seth's life. Became his best friend is now gone. And Ryan goes back to the old neighborhood, and Sandy and Kirsten are trying to deal with both of their children having left. We also see Marissa and Julie being the bad bitch that she has secured a bag for herself.
One more time.
And married Caleb Nickel and married into a bunch of money and
it won't even be the last time.
Because she does not know how to be broke. And that's sort of like where we pick up. So in season 2, episode 1, one thing I really love about the beginning of this season, and one thing that I love about the OC in general, is when big sort of events happen. So like this big event happens, right? And finding about Teresa being pregnant, and then Ryan leaving, and it's causing this huge shift. the OC deals with it. Like the OC deals with it, like in the writing, they deal with this sort of reset, this, and really place the characters in this new normal. And this is something that a lot of shows actually don't do anymore. Like on another show, they would have all these events happen, and then maybe they do like when the season picks back up, they would do like a time jump, and they'd be like 3 weeks later, and you would just sort of like, and everything is sort of like, and all the characters have just dealt with everything off screen, and we're back at some sort of like normal. And the OC doesn't do that. The OC like really works through it, and I love it. I think it's so good. It's just not something a lot of people do anymore, so I really appreciate it. But we pick up and we see Luke. Seth is in Portland with Luke, and it's so nice to check in on Luke and see him living his life out in Portland. We see Teresa and Marissa and Summer and the whole and Ryan is in Chino, sort of living, I guess, what his life could have or would have always been. Like I said, he's working a construction job. He's hanging out with Teresa and working and just living. The only thing I don't like about it is that, I don't know, my mother grew up, quote unquote, like poor. And I think there's not like a beauty in suffering, and there's not like a beauty in struggle, but I think there is a beauty in like Ryan's just like typical working class. And I think they try to like, the show sort of like paints it as like Ryan being working class is like the worst thing that could ever happen to him in the history of life. And I don't know, like I don't know that like I like that rendering.
Yeah, I think I know what you're trying to say, but I think, well, from my perspective anyway, it looked like what the show was trying to do was kind of like show how far Ryan had fallen. It's like you said, this is probably the life he would have always had if he'd never met the Coens. But then when we see that he was just like on the verge of tasting something more, and it's pulled away, the rug is pulled out from underneath him because of, his bad decision to have unprotected sex with Teresa. We kind of like, it kind of feels like you're being a jolt back to reality, and sometimes that reality can be a harsh reality. What I appreciated about the show is that they didn't set Teresa as some sort of villain who ruined his life. So I appreciated that very, very deeply, because so many other shows would have gone that route just because it's easier to like have a scapegoat, to have a person to blame for his situation.
Well, I guess that's it then. Like, I don't like this coding of like Ryan being working class is somehow like lesser than, or like means he's fallen. It just is what it is. Like, and I guess like within the context of the show, it works. And for what the show is, it works. But I think that's just like a general coding that I'm annoyed with, which, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being working class.
No, I feel that. And I agree with it. And I think the show was clearly trying to pander to a sort of intellectualism and elitism and classism. And we're counting on even people who might not agree to go along with it because Ryan was a teenager and he had dropped out of high school. But I feel like if they had tried this with Ryan, say, being in his early 20s and dropping out of college, it wouldn't have been received so well because, like you said, more people would have seen it for what it was, which is kind of like looking down on the working class.
Like I said, it's great to see Luke. Great to see Luke and Luke's dad and Seth and the whole crew.
It's good that the show doesn't just like we said earlier about this show as well as Buffy, the show doesn't dispose of its characters. Okay, Luke left Newport, but we get to see him again. Anna went back to Pittsburgh, but we get to see her again. Like, we're not just supposed to like because you can't introduce these characters and make people care about them and then dispose of them like so many other series do with their characters. Even a villain coming back into a show does great things for audience morale. It kind of gets you back into a place of nostalgia of what the show used to be, let alone someone who was, a beloved part of the supporting cast. It was so great seeing Luke and his dad again, because that's where Seth ran off to. He ran off to Portland, Oregon, to stay with Luke and his father, who are having the time of their lives up there.
They're hanging out and they're having fun. What's the trouble with Marissa?
I think the trouble with Marissa is, I don't think there's a trouble with Marissa. Marissa is like probably the least complex character on the OC, on a show full of like complex characters. Like even Summer is given more depth than Marissa, especially in the second season. I think the problem with Marissa is really a problem with the viewers and Ryan. We want Marissa to be different than what she is. We think that she can be saved and pulled out of this dark place that she is shown as having existed in for quite some time from the very first episode.
Yeah, but Marissa's, trying to find, I guess, like a new Ryan in DJ. It's awkward. So DJ is like the first like Latino person who's like showed up on the show, which is wild because like California, like Mexico's like right there. So it's like California, particularly Southern California, has like a ginormous Latino population. And DJ is probably like, DJ is mestizo and he's the lawn person. Oh God. This show, once again, white people, they try, they're trying, and I guess that's all you can do. But
so hold on, wait, wasn't Teresa the first Latina on the show?
Oh,
that girl ain't white.
That's true. She's other.
Yeah, that girl ain't white.
That's true. She looks so ambiguous. I forget. She's like.
I thought she was either Latino or perhaps Arab, but like her character, I think, is supposed to be coded Latina. Like her name is Teresa. Her mom's really religious.
You're right. She is coded as Latina. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Listen, Pete casting. It's okay for people to be dark skinned. That's it. That's all I got. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Right. Like we were just talking about Afro-Latinos earlier, but like, we know that there is a Latino that exists between white and black. Like, give me some of the brown George Lopez looking ass dudes, please.
Please, like, help me. Like, don't do it. I get that, like, you're insistent.
They're out here.
They're out here. And I get, like, you guys are really committed to this white supremacy thing. So everybody has to be as light as humanly possible. But I really would like it if you could consider that, like, brown and black Latinos exist. Hollywood. Right. Let's just try it. Let's just do something crazy and let's try it. Like Roswell, New Mexico, that white girl that they're so thin. I'm telling you, she's Latina. She's white. I'm like, oh,
even Melanie Diaz couldn't make me watch that show. And people who know me know that I stand Melanie Diaz so hard, but even she couldn't get me to watch that show.
Oh no, I'm talking about like, Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, Roswell. I'm sorry, I thought we were back on Charmed. Yeah, I had no interest in Roswell.
The girl, they're like, oh, she's Latina. Like, she's like, oh, because you think I'm brown. This girl is a whole bitch from Spain. Like, a whole bitch from Spain. Like, in the pilot episode, she's like, you think because I'm brown, you're going to stop me at this checkpoint? I'm like, girl, a whole Spanish bitch. Like, I can see it. Like, that's Europe, honey. Like, I don't even. Like, what are you talking about? Who wrote this?
It's super annoying when white Latinos, especially those who don't have...
Stop, babe. Stop.
It's not happening.
No one is stopping Penelope Cruz.
But yeah, back to this Marissa and DJ situation, girl.
She's having... You talk. What
I was going to say about DJ is he is her family's yard worker. And like, your first instinct is to scream like, this is incredibly racist. And it is. But it's also incredibly accurate.
I was about to say, it's very on brand for like a white girl.
It is so on brand, not just for Marissa as a person, but for Newport Beach as like a structure. Where she would meet someone like DJ would be in this capacity where he's a domestic laborer. And it is so on brand for the white girl to date the brown guy or the black guy to piss off her parents.
Yes, like, you know, in a sense I was like, in a sense it's annoying, but in another sense I was like, you know what though? This is on fucking brand. Like, this is accurate. Like, I don't know that I'm going to really be against it because it feels real.
Right. It feels real. I don't think it would have felt real if DJ had been cast as a white dude. It wouldn't have felt real. Like, we know that Julie is classist as fuck, but she's already dated a poor white guy. She's dated Ryan, you know? So she had to like step it up a notch, you guys.
She did. She had to up the ante.
Now, Ryan comes back home when Teresa lies about miscarrying because she sees how unhappy he is. And Teresa's better than me, y'all. She lies because she sees that Ryan's unhappy and tells him that she has a miscarriage and encourages him to go back to the Coens, which he does. And when he does, like, Seth comes home too. Now, with Seth and Ryan in this situation, I want to reference something that Alex talked about in the last podcast. You were saying how Sandy and Kristen's different parenting styles, and I was talking about how they also differ apparently based on whom they're dealing with. When Ryan left, Kristen was heartbroken, but she let him go. When Seth left, she was livid and wanted him right the fuck back home. When it comes to academics, however, she is but they're both, I think, really, really hard on Ryan because they want him to seize these opportunities. With Seth, it's like, okay, like, you need to get into a good school, but it's probably gonna happen for you. It'll probably fall into your lap. You understand?
Right.
So, like, with different situations, like, they react very, very differently. Like, Kirsten was, I think, justifiably upset that Seth had what was really grieving but came off like a full-on temper tantrum and like ran away when Ryan left. And she's like, you better get my son back home, Sandy. Right. With the underpinning, like, our marriage depends on you getting this kid back in the house.
Right. And something that, with those sort of two different parenting styles, it comes to backfire on them later because, like, Seth doesn't get into Brown. Like, he doesn't get into school. Like, he applies, but he doesn't get in because he doesn't have the grades. And I appreciate that the show shows that like, how their own biases sort of, you know, their biases sort of play out in that manner with their blood child not succeeding the way that they think he's going to succeed. But before we get to that, that's later on. So then we sort of have this Lindsay plot that's happening. Lindsay is somebody that, and it's for Lindsay, somebody like new at Harbor and caught up in this, and she's like a figure that's caught up in this like investigation into Caleb. And we find out that Lindsay is like Caleb's daughter from like another woman, making her like Kirsten's half sister. And then Lindsay's like a teenager, rather. She's like 17. And then Lindsay and Ryan start dating, which is, I mean, I guess they're into each other before anybody knows that she's Kirsten's half sister. But I do like it for the sole purpose of, look at Ryan, like, growth, like Ryan being with somebody who he doesn't have to try to fix.
Girl, okay, I was just about to say this shit. So, like, I really didn't see it for Lindsay and Ryan. And this sounds bad, but I think she was a good in-between girlfriend. I think he needed, like, a respite between Marissa and whomever he was going to try to make it last with. And Lindsay was the perfect person for that because, like Alex said, he didn't have to fix this girl. Like, there were problems in and around her life, but none of her doing. You know, she can't help who her father is. And as far as the Caleb storyline about him having this, like, this child out of wedlock. He had like 2 daughters with his wife, Kirsten and Haley. And then he has this other child who is like a literal child and is Ryan, Marissa, Seth, and Summer's age. This is so on brand also for who Caleb is as a person, to sleep with his secretary and father a child with her.
Right. That's so Caleb. So Lindsay as a character, I think is fine. I think the actress that plays her is fine. At points they do something with Lindsay that I genuinely dislike, really, and that I think they use situations and they use Lindsay to sort of like further like male characters' plots and emotions. But something a plot point that does come up is which is something that I really love, because like you said, because like you said, and I'm so obsessed with it, this idea of like love, accountability, and grief. And it's something I'm so obsessed with to the point that I'm using it like now in my own personal writing to make sure that like my characters are progressing and are deepening in a way that makes sense. But a plot point that happens is Lindsay and Marissa like meet each other, and Lindsay's rightfully very much intimidated by Marissa. And, Marissa has always had like a drinking problem. And so Ryan, stupidly, to be honest, on his part, encourages Lindsay to go hang out with Marissa and Summer and Alex, who we'll get to in a minute. And Lindsay gets like dumb drunk. And it's fascinating because Lindsay gets like really, really wasted, which is out of character for her because that's not really who she is. And Ryan has to sort of go and do what Ryan does best and try to fix her. But when he does, we really get to see like how devastating Marissa, the relationship between him and Marissa was, because he has like a big sort of like PTSD like freak out. Like when Lindsay gets so drunk that she can't like stand up, he really just sort of like rails Marissa because he's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you, like, she's not you. And we sort of see him like really reacting, like having a sort of like PTSD flashback to like all these times that he had to sort of like fix Marissa and like help Marissa and like make sure Marissa didn't go off the deep end. And it's just wonderful to see. And it's just like a really interesting bit of like work, and Ben McKenzie does it so well. And it's great to watch.
I completely agree with all of that. I remember the episode you're talking about, and I think it's so interesting that you saw it as PTSD because I didn't, but you're absolutely right. Like I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm like, she's completely fucking right. Like he's traumatized off this relationship. And like I mentioned in the last episode, Marissa is a lot like Ryan's mom. He had to be the fixer in her life too, because she was also an alcoholic. And his attraction to Marissa, I think, is deeply seated in his relationship to his mother. But both of these relationships scarred him in a great way. And like Alex said, we didn't really see how much until he sees this happening to Lindsay. He knows she's not that type of person. He doesn't want that type of person anymore, right? And he's seeing like his past affect his present, and he's really not here for it at all. And one thing I really, really love about I think there was a part of Ryan after Teresa, when Teresa lies about the miscarriage, and he comes home and like he comes back into this life and he remembers all that he missed. A part of Ryan wants to live more selfishly now, which is something that he never got to do before. A little known fact is that Chad Michael Murray, who went on to play Lucas Scott in One Tree Hill, which debuted the same year as the OC, was originally offered the role of Ryan Atwood, and he turned it down to play Lucas Scott. But the casting directors really didn't see it for Ben McKenzie at first. But in his later auditions, he embodied this character of Ryan Atwood in a way that no one else, including Chad Michael Murray, had. And that's why he was ultimately given the role. And then it's in situations like this where you really see it for Ben McKenzie as an actor. Like, the amount of emotional intensity that goes into his scenes with, like, sloppy drunk Marissa, like Marissa on her worst behavior, his mom on her worst behavior, times when he is forced to be selfless to people that are really destructive in his life, you really see him shine as an actor. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Ben McKenzie is very wonderful because I think something that he really embodies, I think, with Ryan, I think that's hard to do, is that he has, and I think it's just in general, I think a hard thing to come across is this duality of being a person who was like, being a person, like, you know, he's being a person sort of forged in fire, in that, like, you know, Ryan's poor, like, you know, Ryan has to like literally fight, right? Like Ryan, because Ryan, and yet maintain this quality of just inner softness and inner sensitivity and emotional intelligence, which Ryan does have a lot of, which is a hard thing to do. And he does it very well. And that's definitely like the strength. And it's little moments like that, like you sort of realizing, no, he's having like a PTSD episode of like, oh my God, this cannot happen again. That you really see it shine through. Because in another context, that could just be read as like him being violent and him just like ganging up on Marissa. And it's not. It's right. He's having a reaction.
Right. And even later on, I believe he apologizes to Marissa. And then like the last frame of that scene, Marissa's like looking all sad white girl. And it's like, but no, you're right. She's not the victim in the situation. Ryan is absolutely suffering from PTSD. And it's actually not the first time he's broken down over her behavior. So in season 1, she had gotten drunk at a party, was upset with him and tried to drive off. And he was like, you know, he ran up to her car just as she peeled off the driveway, and he made her like move over so he could get in the driver's seat and drive. And she kept on drinking as he was driving, and they were pulled over by the police, and she tried to hold like the bottle between her feet. And it's only because the officer got called up on like a crime that was happening, a burglary or something nearby, that he left and didn't see the bottle at her feet because he was pointing his flashlight on their bodies. And he's still on probation at this time, okay? And he's a driver, so he would still be responsible for a passenger with an open container. He gets out of the car, goes over to the passenger side. He opens her door and he just slams it repeatedly. And she's like, Ryan, you're scaring me. And I'm like, I see it, though. He's intensely frustrated with her behavior. And he's sick of her shit. And so this was actually like a prelude to, you know, the situation Alex brought up, where Lindsay gets like completely shit-faced on Marissa's watch, and he's just so sick of having to babysit her bad behavior.
Right. And it's justifiable. So let's talk about Alex a bit. Alex is played by a pre-A-list Olivia Wilde. Shout out to Olivia Wilde, a blonde Olivia Wilde. I feel like Olivia Wilde's brand is definitely dark hair these days. So Alex shows up and is originally like hooking up with Seth, and she's this, you know, tough talking, surly bartender, but eventually ends up dating Marissa. God bless.
So when Alex comes into the situation, and again, shout out to pre-A-list Olivia Wilde, I really felt like Olivia Wilde did what she had to do with this character, honestly. When she comes into the picture, and she's dating Seth first, you guys. So Alex is a bisexual, and she started dating Seth first, and one of Seth and Summer's many off-again periods. And Marissa is drawn to her. And I think part of why she's drawn to Alex is because Alex represents to her this sort of like freedom and independence that Marissa really wants, but she's in no way, shape, or form prepared to actually handle in the real world. This is someone who, is an alcoholic, gets sloppy drunk very often, and has never even held a job, doesn't know how to pay rent or bills, right? And Alex is shown as someone who's like really holding down her own shit. I think she sees in Alex what she wants to be. And she's very drawn to Alex, like makes excuses to spend time with Alex long before her mother even knows about Alex. Like we feel that Marissa's really into her in a way that hasn't been showcased since Ryan, honestly.
And you're completely right. Alex represents like a freedom and that Marissa's trying to find. And I mean, it goes left. It goes so left because Marissa doesn't even know how to do laundry. Because she moves out of the house and moves in with Alex, and Marissa's trying to do laundry and turns all the clothes like pink.
Yeah. So you know what? I have a theory about Marissa and Alex in particular. I believe that Marissa was, actually bisexual and actually attracted to Alex 100%. But yes. I also feel like Marissa had certain expectations of Alex. I think she wanted Alex to be a DJ or Ryan, a guy that was going to step up and try to fix her, take care of her. Alex wanted an equal partnership, and Marissa was in no form or fashion skilled or emotionally prepared for that, for splitting the rent, for doing the laundry, for taking out the trash, for sharing cooking, things like that. She wanted to move in with Alex and just have Alex take care of her and like just be taken care of. In a lot of ways, she wanted to be what she accused her mother of being often.
Right. And funny enough, it's like a kept woman. And then, right. And for the most part, and in their own ways, Ryan and DJ both always took care of Marissa. So that's what she's used to. She's used to being taken care of in some form or fashion. And Alex wasn't really about that.
Right. Alex just wanted to share a life with Marissa, and Marissa wanted Alex's life to be about her.
Exactly. So then sort of going on in these other storylines, you have Sandy's like ex, I think, love of his life shows up. A wedge, I think, is planted between Sandy and Kirsten, and their relationship starts to not fracture, but definitely crack. There are definitely cracks that are starting to happen. And you also have this, Summer has a new boyfriend who is essentially like a hotter version of Seth.
You think he's hotter, Zach?
No, I think they both look the same, but I think the show wants you to think that he's a hotter version of Seth.
I mean, I know they want us to think he's a funnier version of Seth, because remember, like, Seth was the only person who didn't think he was funny, and that was like a whole plot line for like a whole episode. Like, he'd make jokes and everyone would laugh so hard, and Seth would be like, he's not funny, you guys. Right. Like, he was bootleg Seth Cohen.
But then they're like, oh, like he plays water polo and his like family, and like, he can speak fluent Italian and like he cooks. He's supposed to be, the show is trying to code him as a more like debonair, like hotter version of Seth, but I think they're just the same.
Yeah, definitely he's supposed to be like the more cultured Seth. So I guess Seth is like the bootleg version of Zach.
Yeah. But we have those two, and they're sort of like going head to head for Summer Roberts, and that will continue throughout season 2.
I actually like this plot line as like kind of like juvenile as it was. It kind of reminded us that A, this is a kid's show, B, this is what a lot of high school relationships are like, and C, Summer has options too. Well, she can do the love triangle too.
That's true. You're right. That is actually the love triangle between Zach, Summer, and Seth is a super fun one. And once again, I think the show makes it work. And I think the reason why it works and it doesn't come off as like toxic is because the show doesn't take it too seriously. I think the show has fun with it, and allows the actors to have fun with it, and doesn't like try to make it too dramatic. You know what I mean?
Right. The love triangles are very lighthearted. Like, the most intense it ever got was the one between Marissa, Alex, and Ryan. And that's because, you know, like Alex said, they made that shit go so far left. I feel like they were looking for a way to get Alex off the show. And so they turned her character into incredibly possessive, territorial person.
Right. The love triangle between Alex, Marissa, and Ryan does get like super intense, and it gets intense for like no real reason. The show tries to justify it, and they have a scene where Alex is like, you know, I really love you, like I'm not normally like this, but like I'm really into you, and I need to know if you're into me or if this is just like a phase. But it just yeah, like the beginnings of Marissa and Alex's relationship is actually really beautiful and really like tender and really sweet, and it's almost like a mirror for how things started with Ryan, where she's very much into this person. She's trying to spend time with this person. There's a lot of like intimacy between them even before they share a first kiss, and it's so well done. And the way things ended between them, where they had an honest conversation, they hug, they part without any like toxicity or animosity between them, is so well done. But the in between, where like Marissa's basically being like useless because she's used to being taken care of, and then Alex becomes really toxic and possessive. Well, that latter bit I could have done without. Yeah, and Alex like threatens to like beat up Ryan, which is
she brought like 3 guys to the beach to kick his ass, you guys.
I was like, girl, that is crazy.
You're doing a lot, fam. You're doing a lot.
Like, stop. What?
It was so bad. It was so bad. But it was kind of even that was kind of hilarious because she was like, I bought my squad. What's good? That was as toxic as it ever got. And like a part of me is glad it didn't go further than that. And like, we didn't have like another Oliver situation on our hands.
Oh my God, Oliver. Oh, it was horrible. It was great, but it was horrible. So then sort of this mid-season, around episode 16, we have like the entrance of Ryan's big brother, Trey, played by, I think I said this last episode, but I'm going to say it again. Tom Hardy doppelganger. Logan, what's his face?
He's low budget Tom Hardy for sure.
He is low budget Tom Hardy for sure. Listen, all I'm saying is Google listeners, Google The Invitation and then get a screenshot of him in that movie. This is like that's the same guy who plays Trey, and then Google a picture of Tom Hardy and tell me that like they're not related.
Sometimes I wonder what it's like in Hollywood when there's an A-lister who exists who has your face. Like, imagine being like a C or D list actor, or like even on the B list, right? And there's already someone who's like a noteworthy celebrity who has your exact fucking face. What does that feel like?
It means like you better be good at your shit. Like, but it's so many people. Like, you know what I mean? Like Katy Perry, Zooey Deschanel, and like one other girl all look the same. Like Hollywood does it over and over again. They have all these actors and actresses that look exactly like each other. But it's different for
Katie and Zoe though, because one's a singer and one's an actress, right? Like I don't think if Katie were an actress, she'd be a successful one because we have Zooey Deschanel. You know what I mean?
You're right though. But like there's like a website that does it, like what celebrities look like each other, and when you really start looking at them, you're like, damn, like. Because it's a lot of them that like are interchangeable, like visually. They all really do look like each other. But yeah, I think that's weird. It must just be like I would sell it. I'd be like, girl, you can get Tom Hardy on a budget, B. Like, come on, like this
right, like He'd probably be charging like $5 million to be in this movie, and I'm only charging you $1. So
right. So come on.
My agent says I can do this movie for only $1 million. You guys, that's more money for your production.
That's more money for your production. That's more money for post. Like, let's get it. Like, let's go. I would. That's how. It's like,
yeah.
I'm bargain basement. You know, if I'm bargain basement, Jennifer Hudson, y'all get in this. Like, you can have it. Like,
oh my God, but then they're gonna want you to like hold that note from Dreamgirls for the 5 minutes that J-Hud did.
Oh girl, no. Listen, no, that's why I'm bargain basement. Like,
oh my God. No, but back on the OC, you guys. We first meet Trey on the very first episode of the OC, and he's been in and out of like juvie and lockup before because he's been doing some criminal shit for a while now, and he's encouraging Ryan to do it as well, which is where Ryan has his first run-in with the law and he meets Sandy. So again, this show doesn't dispose of people, and it brings Trey back when he gets out of prison because they did say that he was only going to be like in prison for like 18 months or something. Ryan has to contend with his past again.
He's released in episode 20, like not episode 2. Oh my God, season 2, episode 17. The Brothers Grimm is when Trey is released and comes back to be like a presence in the show. We sort of see Ryan sort of once again enter this sort of, you know, mom mode or like fix, like I have to fix it mode, because we see that Ryan also has to really work to keep Trey's life back on track. And a reason why I love like when Trey comes back is that I think we get to see a sort of glimpse of like what their relationship was like before Ryan came to Newport. And we sort of see that Ryan has always been the one. I think we realize why Ryan is such a Captain Save-A-Ho, because like that's just what he's had to do with everybody in his life, and and he doesn't really know how to be any other way.
Right. I agree with Alex completely. He's always been the fixer for his brother and for his mother. And what I really like, a lot of people don't really catch the way that I feel like they should catch, is that Ryan is not the older brother. This is a dynamic that I've seen. This is a dynamic that I've engaged in. But he is the younger sibling who has to like step up into that older sibling role because the older sibling dropped the ball a long time ago and is simply not responsible. And if Marissa is a damsel in distress for Ryan and his mom is a damsel in distress, his brother is absolutely a dude in distress. He's constantly trying to save and fix really, really self-destructive people. And it's forced him to be wiser than his years, but also like sacrifice a lot of what it means to just be like a teenage kid, because there's always been these people who relied on him in some form or fashion. And like Ryan really never has much room to breathe, even when he's in a better environment, because he still has these people in his life, or these types of people in his life.
Right. And so by the time Trey gets back, Ryan and Marissa have once again reconciled. And funny enough, I think that Marissa also, I think, enjoys Trey, like is happy for Trey's presence in the fact that like she can now that she's like in a better place, she's not drinking anymore, she's, you know, back at Harbor doing well, you know, Marissa, I think, is really trying to prove to Ryan that she can be stable and she doesn't need saving anymore. So that's why Marissa sort of works overtime as well to like help Trey out. I think Marissa's trying to prove that like she can be like a good partner to Ryan, and that it won't always be Ryan saving her and Trey being who Trey is, just, you know, it just ends in disaster.
I was saying it's interesting about Marissa because I agree with you that I think that she was trying to prove to Ryan that he wouldn't have to like fix her and save her for the rest of their relationship together. But I also like that dynamic of her trying to get her shit together and help Trey, because this is actually something that, you know, alcoholics and other addicts are told to do when they're trying to be sober is to, like, you know, help other people. And being of service is actually something that keeps a lot of people sober. And, you know, in a lot of ways, Marissa was Trey's unofficial sponsor. You know, she wanted to help him. She really wanted to help him for Ryan's sake. And she wanted to stay sober, basically to set a good example for him, right? And like you said, it ended up backfiring, but I really like this dynamic because I felt it was really true to life of someone who's like trying to pick their life up and start clean.
And I love what you said about Marissa being Trey's unofficial sponsor, because that is so correct. That's exactly what she was doing. Marissa using her resources and her privilege to really help. I mean, Marissa pays the down payment on Trey's apartment. You know, Trey, yeah, she pays that first and last month's rent because she knows he can't afford it because of the job, because, you know, he is working at a minimum wage job. She pays for, you know, new clothes, like interview clothes. She pays for a bunch of stuff to like really help him out. She sells like old crap that's like in their house in order to help him get, you know, other vital resources that you need when you are on probation and you're coming out of prison. And she does it in, like you said, because one, she has the resources, she can afford it. It's not like Julie's doing anything with the money. And two, because she's trying to help. And this like in turn helps her. And it just goes, and because Trey is just, I think, a man. Trash. And because he's a man, he just completely misinterprets it. And what ends up happening.
Oh, I was going to say, it's interesting that you say that because Marissa had a similar, definitely not on this scale, but a similar interaction with Teresa. And Teresa never misinterpreted it. And it's interesting that his brother Trey was portrayed this way, because this is so many men. They are incapable of having a woman be nice to them without thinking she wants to fuck.
Right. And it's wild because it's particularly, and so when everything that happens with them happens, you know, he's so dumbstruck. He's like, I know you've been coming on to me. You've been helping me. She's like, because you're my boyfriend's brother. Like, right. She says that to him. She goes, she's like, I love Ryan. Like, I love him. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you being like this? Like, why would this enter your mind? And it's, like you said, it's so great because it's so true to life. It's so real. Like, that is exactly what would happen. Because like I
don't even smile when I leave my house. I don't even smile.
Like, because it's exactly what you say. It's like, you're just like, and the fact that he is so scuzzy, like, you know, she's like, and poor Marissa, because it's so real. Marissa does not understand, like, in any sort of way, like, how he can, like, jump to she wants to have sex with him, because it's like, no, like, we're friends. And like, granted, your brother's penis has never entered me, but like, we've done other stuff. So like, I need you to like, I don't get like why you think that. He does attempt to like rape her, and she does fight him off. But then everything goes completely south because, you know, everybody agrees not to tell Ryan. She doesn't want to tell Ryan because, and even just her actions after the attempted rape feel just so like exactly like what a woman would do. It's like, she doesn't want to tell Ryan. It's going to cause more issues. She doesn't really want to tell anybody. She just wants it to like not, because it's like, what is the value? Like, she's weighing the value of like people knowing in her mind, and you know, she determines it's going to do more harm than good. So like, whatever, let's keep like whatever, I'm over, like whatever. But she's not over it, because like now it has like, because of her PTSD of it and because of her trauma around it, like she can't like be physical with Ryan in the way that like she's used to and that he's used to, and it comes between them, and then people do find out, and Ryan does what Ryan does and, you know, goes ballistic. And then Trey almost kills him, almost beats him to death. And Marissa sort of comes in while it's happening and she sees, and then there's a gun and she shoots Trey. And it's and that's how the series that's how season 2 ends, and it's banana. I mean, shout out to the show, because like when it even rewatching it when it happens, I'm like, wow, that was banana nuts.
It still hits, you guys. It still hits.
Still hits like really hard. So shout out to the show. And then other stuff that's happening, Julie's porn tape, which is an amazing plot line. Also, Julie did like porn, I guess, back when, because like we said, Julie Cooper has never been a broke bitch. She does not know that life. Never.
She's allergic to it.
She's allergic to the. So, you know, Julie has like a porn out there that someone's blackmailing her with, like, you know, revenge porn, except it's actual porn. And then she's sleeping with Jimmy again. So she's cheating on Caleb, and Caleb finds out, and Caleb's getting ready to divorce her. And funny enough, but he's divorcing her right before she's about to get the $2 million in the prenup. So Julie decides that she's going to poison Caleb and kill him, but then she can't go through with it, right? And then Caleb dies anyway.
The timing is impeccable.
The timing is impeccable.
I wanted to stand up in a fucking she must have been like a savior of, like, you know, orphan children in her past life or something. I don't know.
I don't even know. We also see like this person, Carter, come into Kirsten's life, and Kirsten almost cheats, but she doesn't quite cheat. She has an emotional affair, essentially. And Kirsten's drinking now worsens and becomes unsustainable. And then, you know, Zach and Summer and Seth, that whole trio, that resolves. And it's like, you know, Seth, like we always knew it was going to be.
You said a lot, so I want to address like the string of things that we just said right now. So going back to Trey real quick, I like that the way that the Trey character was handled. And one of the best things I like was that the writers didn't actually write in a rape. So take notes, all the writers out there. Rape is a really cheap plot device. If you absolutely need it, an attempted rape hits the same for the audience, but far less traumatically than putting an actual rape or an implied rape on your fucking show. Please don't do that. Please don't. We don't need your character to be like raped and brutalized on the show. Please. So thank you to the OC writers for not having Marissa be raped on the show. That was great. Julie's porn tape. I thought this was a really great way of giving the character a complexity that had nothing to do with Marissa's feelings about her or any of her husband's or ex-husband's feelings about her. This kind of pulls us into whatever life Julie had before she was a married woman and before she was a mother. And I appreciated that. So shout out for that. The last thing you mentioned was Kristen's drinking.
Right.
So full disclosure, I'm not someone who drinks. I hate the taste of alcohol. I don't drink. I've tried alcohol, tried different types. They all tasted bad to me, so I don't drink. But for me, the line between a person who drinks every time they feel upset and an alcoholic is a very fine line. And Kristen is a character that was foreshadowed from the beginning as, you know, always needing her nightly drink when she comes home from working with her father, because she works for her father at the Newport group, or needing a drink when in a stressful situation. Her character fighting alcoholism later, I thought was actually a really brilliant storyline. Instead of introducing a whole new person who was an alcoholic, just show us the progression of her alcoholism.
You're right. And it is done subtly and very beautifully. So if I had to pick some iconic episodes from season 2, I would definitely pick season 2, episode 1, The Distance. Season 2, episode 5, The Snow Sea. Season 2, episode 6, The Chrismica, that almost didn't happen. Season 2, episode 15, The Mall episode. That's a cute.
Right. It is cute.
Season 2, episode 14, The Rainy Day Women. You should watch that, even because there's like a great scene in it that's like it's a real blast to the past reference to like the, you know, the very first Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
There's a great like homage to that very first Spider-Man movie in Rainy Day Women, and it's great. And then season 2, episode 17, The Brothers Grimm. Season 2, episode 20, The OC Confidential. Season 2, episode 22, The Showdown. And then season 2, episode 24, The Dearly Beloved.
I agree with all of those. I liked all those, especially Rainy Day Women. I thought it was really cute. If you watch the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and you enjoyed it, I think you'll enjoy this episode in particular. So what do you think of season 2, Alex? Is it good, bad, or basic?
I say season 2 is good. I was not sure it was going to be good, but I think it's good. I think there's lots of stuff that happens, and I think we get to see like these characters develop more and they deepen. And you should watch season 2, if nothing, to see this amazing like TI like sequence. I don't know.
Oh God, why?
Then that's season 2, episode 21, The Return of the Nana. There's like this long ass like TI sequence that you could tell was like some sort of like Fox like branding.
It's like, are the black kids watching? Let's get the black kids.
It's like the black kids. Like, we need more Negroes watching. So that's great. You should do that. But I think it's good. What about you, Em?
TI sequence aside, I actually really loved season 2. Season 2 was one of my favorite seasons, and I absolutely think it was better than season 1, low key. I liked the entrance of Trey, not just because we get to know even more about Ryan, and like you said, we get to know what his relationship with his brother was always like prior to his brother's incarceration. But Marissa is tested. Her sobriety is tested in a major way, dealing with Trey in the aftermath of the attempted rape. I like that season 2, puts Summer out there as like a smart person. And, we were talking earlier about his parents' kind of biases clouding them. Seth absolutely came at Summer with a very sort of bias that she was really, really pretty, but really dumb. All these years he'd been pining over her. He'd never seen her as someone intelligent. Summer really showed herself as kind of like a force to be reckoned with, like an intellectual force to be reckoned with. And I think that had our boy Seth shook a little bit when he realized, okay, she's not just pretty with good tits. She's smart. Right. What do I bring to the relationship now? Because I thought I was the brains, Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of people are tested on this show, and a lot of people are exposed. And my good bitch, Julie Cooper, kept her bag. Julie Cooper Nickel. I'm sorry, you guys. Julie Cooper Nickel kept that bag.
So season 3 picks up right after the like intense season 2 finale. Once again, I really need to stress how like great this show is in terms of like when they do something intense, they stick with it. It picks season 3, episode 1, The Aftermath, picks up right after Trey is shot, and we see Seth, Ryan, and Marissa all rush Trey to the hospital, and the ambulance comes in, and all this sort of chaoticness of that. And then for the next couple of episodes, we're dealing with what's going to happen in terms of, who's going to jail, because Ryan's does have a record. He was in juvenile detention. He was on probation. He could go to jail for a very long time for attempted murder. The show sort of leans in and deals with all of that.
It's like Alex said, a lot of shows could skip right over this, right? They could be like 3 months later.
Right. And they usually do.
And this is what I like to call the skipped parts. And Misha Barton, by the way, was also in a movie called The Skipped Parts. Check that out if you're into indies. But this is what I like to call the skipped parts. And for me, having skipped parts in a show, depending on how much time you have, right? Like if you only have like 6 episodes, I get it. But when you have as many episodes as the OC had, there's no excuse for skipped parts. I think it's a mark of poor writing And like I said, like my trio of like good writing and good character development is like, where does love, accountability, and grief come in? A lot of people write these skipped parts or don't write these parts and just skip right over them because they don't know how to handle character grief appropriately. But the OC does. Like that grief and that trauma and that tension that comes from like a high stress situation is something that the writers of the show do really, really well. This is something that we also saw handled really well on Buffy when Buffy's mom, Joyce, dies. Like, your audience can handle grief. Like, we know what grief is like. We know what it's supposed to look like. So you not writing it is a personal choice. It has nothing to do with views. Because I remember this third season of the OC, probably not since the pilot episode, had a season premiere had generated as many views as this. You know, the cliffhanger on season 2 when Marissa shoots Trey is enough. We're tuning in now. We want to see the aftermath. We don't want to skip to 3 months later. So thank you, writers, for doing that.
Season 3. So season 3, Kirsten is still in rehab. She hasn't quite. She's gone to rehab through like an intervention from her family, and Caleb has died, and the boys everyone's sort of gearing up for, the beginning of senior year. Season 3 marks the introduction of the lovely and talented and amazing Taylor Townsend.
I love Taylor.
She's not so lovable in season 3, but she will absolutely get there. I think I love Taylor because I think Taylor's like a true blue millennial. I think she's probably the most accurate portrayal of like millennial women like on the show, and that like she's super type A, she's like intensely dedicated to, I think, her academic and future success and really, and crazy. So
right.
Who shot Trey? Trey does wake up. But Marissa does eventually come clean about her being the one to shoot Trey. And subsequently, because of it, she is kicked out of, she's not kicked out of Harbor. Well, she is kicked out of Harbor because of it, because there's like a new headmaster and she violates the rules and he doesn't want her back. But also we find out that Caleb, upon his death, was Bernie Madoffing all these people. As well. Caleb was broke, and he was embezzling money from the Newport group to pay he was robbing, Peter to pay Paul. And so the money that Julie was supposed to get, she can't get because there is none.
Right. Well, he was robbing Peter to pay himself.
And so with that, Marissa has to go to public school. Julie is back in the trailer, which she swore to God she would never be. So I know my girl is like, she's never been more distraught in her whole life. And that's where we are for this sort of first half of season 3. Oh, and then Marissa and Ryan finally have sex for the first time throughout the whole series.
I thought that was interesting too. So I'm gonna go back to just go through all the points that you made. First, Taylor Townsend. Why do I keep saying Tracy? Taylor Townsend. So Taylor Townsend's character was actually based off of Reese Witherspoon's character, Tracy Flick, in the movie Election.
I love it.
She was supposed to be like a toned down, more likable version of Tracy Flick, and she nails it. If you haven't seen Election, check out that movie because it is a really great dark comedy that still hits like every single note. It's starring Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick. But if you've seen that movie, and you've seen the OC and you've seen Taylor, you know exactly what we're talking about. The parallels are just like bright as day. About Marissa and Ryan, though, I thought it was heavily implied that they'd already been having sex. But then, like it becomes a whole thing in season 3, and then I realized, oh, they hadn't had sex before, they just came really, really close, which kind of like makes you like, huh? Because she slept with Luke. She and Alex had sex like very, very, very quickly. So it's almost as if like the show's trying to solidify the idea that she and Ryan are each other's like great loves because they waited so long, which is, it's kind of like 90s after school special, but it works.
Yeah. You're right. I just don't know. I don't know what they're trying to say by it. Like, I feel like you're right that they're just trying to, but I don't know that I guess that doesn't like hit for me. Like,
it doesn't. It really don't.
It doesn't hit for me. Like, there has to be like a better, it just doesn't hit for me.
Right, like I guess, like I see what you're trying to do, but you missed the mark, honestly.
You missed the mark, honestly.
Like, and like maybe it would have hit differently if like Marissa hadn't had sex with anyone in all this time and she was still a virgin, and Ryan hadn't had sex with anyone else, but like he slept with Teresa, she slept with Luke and Alex, but they're coming together. It's supposed to be this monumental thing, and I'm just like, I guess. Even when they come together, it's like they shoot, like it happens in like, because Seth steals this like prop from the school play and they set it up on the beach, and but in the way it's shot like it's intercut with like her dad being beat up, so it doesn't even, that like further like cheapens it, like it further makes it feel like it's not that important. Like, it's intercut with Jimmy, like, because Jimmy is supposed to, and this is the last time we'll see Marissa's dad. Jimmy sort of convinces Julie that he's like fell into more money, but it's a lie. He's actually broke again. And these, loan sharks come to collect, and they beat him up. And the scene with like Ryan and Marissa having sex is intercut with like Jimmy being beat up. And so, with, the next morning, sort of them being Ryan and Marissa cuddling, but then cutting to Jimmy telling Marissa that like he's just got to go, and Marissa sort of like being disappointed but like understanding who her father is, and that he's always been this sort of like unreliable person. Fuck up, an unreliable person in her life. So like, yeah, like you said, it just doesn't hit. It doesn't hit. Yeah.
I was gonna say they should have just did what you said and have just like gone with this idea that like they've always been having sex, but like this is just one time that they're doing it again. They should have just written something in there like that, like maybe had them do it and then reference like the past or something or whatever.
Right. I think if you're going to make a big production out of them sleeping with each other for the first time, that should have been done in season 2 when he came back to Newport. IJS. Like, they're just so happy to see each other again. He feels unencumbered because, as far as he's concerned, Teresa's not having his baby anymore. And he does a thing that he should have done when he was still in Newport Beach and consummates their relationship. Like, it would have hit different.
Or you do it after Alex. You do it after she breaks up with Alex.
There were like so many opportunities in season 2. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Or you do it, or I thought it would have worked during like the mall episode. I think you could do it during the mall episode because like they even on that in season 2, on that episode, they, they're in the mall. It's dark. It's quiet. And like Seth and Summer are in one tent and Ryan and Marissa are in another. I would have and they sort of build it that like it's tense for them to be that close, and they just should have had them go for it. If you're trying to make a big production of it.
Yeah, I think after Alex would be a good one. I don't know about the mall episode simply because she was still with Alex at the time, and I know the show never wants to code Marissa as a cheater. Even when she was with Luke, right, and she was clearly into Ryan, like her and Luke were over before she and Ryan actually were honest about their feelings for each other. The thing with Jimmy, too, like you said, the cutaway scenes of seeing Jimmy get beat up when her and Ryan are together for the first time. This was probably like the one shot of all the shots of all the episodes of the OC in 92 episodes, that was like absolute and utter trash.
No, you're right. Like the intercuts are so dumb. I'm really upset with them. I'm like, I'm going to go back and look like who directed that episode, because like that's a dumb choice. It's like, I just don't understand.
We can't even get into the moment. Like her dad is like bleeding like every 2-3 seconds. We have to cut. Like, you guys,
don't do that. Like, I hope that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, they make it a big production and then they just cheapen it for like, I don't know. I don't know.
Jimmy and Julie are interesting people because she's a woman that is like grew up poor and like secured her bags because she's allergic to being a basic broke bitch. And Jimmy's someone who's like old money, but like really shouldn't be trusted with anything more than $5.
Really should not be.
He consistently not just fumbles his bag, but straight up just sets it on fire. Every single chance Jimmy has to come out on top, it's like he's allergic to success, you guys. I don't get it. And I can't even understand how frustrating it must have been for someone like Julie to be with someone like Jimmy, because she has a head for business. She has real business acumen. And more than that, she sees shit coming from like a mile away and tries to hit it off at the pass. Jimmy doesn't even admit how bad he is with money until he's like, you know, sitting on a wooden crate. What I love about this Jimmy storyline is that it does a lot to just kind of like bring us back to Julie season 1 and show us like, hey, maybe she's not like the pissed off gold digger. Maybe she's not just like the cruel wife. Maybe she's a woman who's been poor before and doesn't want her children to experience poverty and is livid that her husband would even put their family in that position and put himself in the position to be arrested. Like maybe Julie's not such a bad character after all, because, you know, Jimmy's just shitty with money and his character is consistently.
In the back half of season 3, we meet Marissa and Julie are living in the trailer, and Caitlin, Marissa's younger sister, who we haven't seen since like season 1, comes back and she's all grown up, and we're told the show tells us that Caitlin was in boarding school in Switzerland and she's now back. I hate Caitlin.
Yeah. So Caitlin is aged up rapidly. And like the show does 2 things that were actually really common in the 80s and 90s with shows. Underutilizing of a younger sibling. Like, first of all, all of the first 2 seasons could have been exactly the same if Marissa had been an only child, first of all, especially since she spends absolutely no time with her sister. And then the second thing that it does is like it ages the sibling up when it finally does want to utilize them. When the show opens, Marissa is 16 and Caitlin's 9. Tell me how this 7-year spread works when Marissa's now 17 and Caitlin comes back home and she's like 14 or 15 years old.
Right. It doesn't work. And like it's a sort of soap opera. It's a soap opera trick that we're supposed to, just, take and suspend disbelief. But it doesn't work. But in general, I just hate Caitlin goes the way of like so many other like younger siblings. Like, I think about Tony's younger sister, Effie, and there are others, but they're escaping me now. And her characterization goes the same way, and I hate it, and I don't know why. I've always hated when like shows do this, and I always hate how they characterize these younger siblings, like when they grow them up, like in sort of frame them is to be like even worse than their older siblings. And I don't know why, but I hate it every time. And Caitlin's no different.
No, I completely agree with you. And, shout out to baby Shailene Woodley, who played the first Caitlin. Thank you for doing what you had to do, because even though we only saw you for a total of 5 minutes, that was the last time Caitlin was even likable. I did not like the new Caitlin whatsoever. And I think it's interesting what you say, how they put her as like a worse version of her sister. I think this is interesting because when we talked about the Vampire Diaries in the originals, we talked about characters not really evolving, but when it was time for them to rebrand, the writers would introduce a new character that was a worse version of this person we were now supposed to root for. I definitely think by the latter half of season 3, the writers realized that the audience was kind of sick of Marissa's shit, and were just like, whoa, what about her sister Caitlin, you guys?
Because by season 3, you know, Seth has grown up a lot. Ryan has grown so much. Summer has as well, and so have all the adults. And Marissa's sort of just there. Marissa's just sort of there. And granted, I think we're on the cusp of her about to have like another sort of spiral, but the catalyst of that is never quite explained of why she has that spiral. Caitlin definitely feels like a ploy to try to improve or to have like someone on hand to just throw monkey wrenches and create conflict, but it doesn't hit. It's just annoying.
Yeah, so I have a theory. You know, I always have a theory. My theory on Marissa Cooper is that her character fails because I feel like the writers thought that they had done enough early on. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Ryan is a character that we have to get to know. Summer is a character we have to get to know. Seth is a Summer that we have to get to know. With Marissa, all the cards are laid out in the pilot episode. We have this, you know, nice enough, wealthy girl who is 16 years old and is already like, you know, more or less a functional alcoholic at best and a sloppy drunk at worst. And you can show us her parents, right? And you can show us that dynamic, and we can give her parents these complexities to try to explain away her addiction. But at the end of the day, Marissa's an addict, and I think they thought that just making her an addict made her character complicated enough without actually doing more to like keep us interested in her and keep her evolving. The thing is, even if Marissa never got sober, Marissa is absolutely one of those characters that unfortunately things happen to, and we see the best example of this being in season 1 in her interactions with Oliver and her refusal to see him for what he was. I think that the Marissa character and her constant needing of help and her constant blind spots and needing this man she loves to like come through for her every time was almost like the Elena Gilbert prototype. And we got sick of her for the same reason that we couldn't get behind Elena.
That's fair. I feel that.
So what were your favorite episodes from season 3?
Right. My favorite, so season 3, episode 1, The Aftermath. Great episode. I want to say season 3, episode 6, The Swells, is really great. Season 3, episode 10, The Chrismica Bar Mitzvah. All the Chrismica episodes are great and should always be watched. They're just always fun. Season 3, episode 15, The Heavy Lifting. And then season 3, episode 19, Secrets and Lies. Season 3, episode 21, The Dawn Patrol, which is so beautiful. It's when Ryan reconnects with like his mother, and his mother has been clean, and he's trying and invites her to like his graduation. And it's really one of the standout episodes, and it's one of the sweetest episodes. Great episode. And then season 3, episode 24, The Man of the Year. And then season 3, episode 25, The Graduates. What is with these long ass episodes? Season 3 is another like 25 season episodes.
They really
order
packed it in there, but like I said, I was cool with it, with the exception of like that clusterfuck ass love scene with Ryan and Marissa. They actually paced the plots and the subplots really, really well. And we got to see the return of my girl, Anna Stern. I love Anna so much, and we got to see her on one of the episodes. It was one or two of the episodes when like Anna kind of makes like a brief reappearance. I love
College Try and The Party Favor. That's 22 and 23. It was great to see them. Yeah. And then we see Teresa again. Teresa comes back to take Ryan to prom. I love this show.
Yeah, it's done so well. And I'm just like, I miss these people. I miss these people so much. So much. I love everything that happened this season. Even like Seth not getting into Brown was, I think, like a greater subplot. Not just because it's like we were talking about like the privilege here, but we're also in relation to Summer. Summer did get into Brown. The thing about Seth, as much as I love Seth is written as a character who very much feels that like he's an intellectual superior to Summer, and her getting into Brown when he did not nip that shit right in the bud, and I was here for it. What were your overall thoughts on season 3? Was it good, bad, or basic?
I think season 3, I will still say is good. So one of the things, like, season 3, we also have, Marissa dies. And funny enough, her death feels very right.
I agree with that, actually.
Yeah, I actually, I think her story just came to an end. And I appreciate that. Well, I think when the show was like airing and like filming, there were like other extenuating circumstances in that Misha Barton was running with that sort of Paris Hilton, Britney Spears crew at the time. And there were like issues, although I do remember she did not expect to get killed off. And when she did get killed off, she felt some type of way, I think, because I remember like press interviewing her about it. And she was like, I don't know. I'm so excited for them, though. Like, happy to see the new season. She like gave like a really great diplomatic answer.
Cringe.
But funny. But you know what? Rewatching it now, her character had just come to an end. Marissa's story had come to an end, and somehow I feel like the death was appropriate.
No, I was saying I agree with you for the reasons I stated previously when I was saying how I think the writers put a lot of time into building everyone's character, but they gave her lots of complexity right off the bat and didn't really do much work to create like an evolution in her character. So while it's very risky, I think it's very, very risky to kill off a member of your core 4. And I don't think any other show has even attempted to go this route.
And there are shows that absolutely should have, because like Archie Andrews really should be dead, but whatever.
Elena Gilbert should have died. Klaus should have died. I think a lot of these characters are really useless as fuck, or they've served their purpose, they've run their course, and they need to be ended now. It's a really risky move, but I think it's a good move. I know the show suffered for it. As far as viewership, the last season was the shortest. It was only 16 episodes long. Mm-hmm. But I think it was the right move, and I think it was really the only way to keep the rest of these characters that I cared about so much, like, on a trajectory towards growth, because Marissa had become that thing that was keeping them stagnant.
Yeah, I think Marissa was keeping them stagnant, and you're exactly right. So season 4, we pick up season 4, episode 1, and this is the final season of the show, is called The Avengers. And maybe the show itself was finished, because they do exactly what I hate, and we get like a 5 months later tag. So we've done a time jump 5 months later. I will give the OC credit though, because this is the first time they've ever done that. We sort of pick up with everybody. We see that Ryan is not in college, but he's looking for Volchek, or like on some sort of spiral of his own due to Marissa's death. He's like cage fighting or whatever. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And then Summer is at Brown Summer's at Brown, and she's become like a little vegan activist. God bless her. Sweet
I love that this phase is portrayed on the show because there are white girl college phases, and this is one of them.
It is. It's so one of them. With a pre-A-list Chris Pratt. Shout out to Chris Pratt. And then we see Seth sort of, meandering his gap year, hanging out, working at the comic book store, hanging out with Summer's dad, hanging out with Julie's friends, like the Noopsies, the wives of Newport, generally meandering before he goes off to Rhode Island, because he eventually got into like some, I want to say it's like a smaller, either a trade school or like a smaller like arts college in Rhode Island. And he's just sort of waiting the year out before he and Summer can be together in Rhode Island. And then we see Julie's sort of catatonic and not really dealing with Marissa's death. And Caitlin is, being Caitlin. Annoying. I don't even know.
Right. Like, this is what I was talking about too when I said that I feel like Marissa is a character that caused other characters on the show to become stagnant. No one more so than Ryan and her mother, Julie. These are characters that have made a lot of personal growth, but in Julie's case, we don't acknowledge it, right? Because Marissa is one of our protagonists or our core four. We started seeing that, like, Julie's not a bad person. She's not a bad mother. She's made a few huge missteps, but a lot of Marissa's like acting out behavior and like she's stuck in constant rebellion mode just got really old and really tired.
Season 4 is exactly what we talk about in terms of like high school shows have that just don't know what to do after their kids go to college. Because really everybody don't. And the OC is just like every other show. Like it just doesn't know what to do. It's having trouble sort of getting to zero. Well, what happens is eventually Summer gets kicked out of Brown because of some sort of like free the bunnies stunt that her and Chris Pratt's character Chet do. Che.
Yeah, he's trying to be like a mini Che Guevara, and they're on some white veganism communist type shit. Like it's a bastardization of both vegan activism and communism, but it works.
I was gonna say
it was a mess, and we keep referencing Buffy, but it's honestly for a good reason. Like Buffy did it best, and they did it in a very simple manner. Put everybody in the same college.
Everybody's going to the same college. For whatever reason, nobody knows, nobody cares. Just put them all in the same school. Right. Which is real. And I don't know why more people don't do that. I'm just like, yeah, everybody just go to the same college or like stay in the same town. Like it doesn't.
Like I get what they were doing, right? Because they want to show who these people are on their own. And that's admirable. But y'all should have done that in season 2. Like you could have put season 1, they were seniors, and season 2, they're in college discovering each other and trying to keep this friendship alive. Right now, in the last season, it doesn't hit the way that it should. And most importantly, if you had put them in the same college, it would have made complete and perfect sense in regards to Marissa's death and them wanting to be close to each other.
Right. Because like not wanting to lose each other and then having them grieve together. It works better.
Y'all could have been like, look, they got into all these different colleges, right? And that's fine. And they had all these plans, but Marissa died. There are really good colleges in California anyway. So they all decided to just commute, even if it wasn't the same college, right? Y'all could have had them commute to, different nearby colleges. And like all of them were like still like, within an hour of each other because they just needed that for their grieving process. And then the show could have ended when they finally realized we do have to go our separate ways, and like they're on to different things in different states. Y'all could have done that.
Right. So Summer, but the way they get back to zero is that Seth stays home, Ryan comes home, and then Summer gets kicked out of Brown and comes home, and everybody's home.
And Summer's behavior was kind of like weird to me too, because like Summer wasn't really ever a joiner like that, right? Like Like, when I thought about people who would get kicked out of college for this exact same shit, Summer was not on the list. I thought she would have like the white girl college phase where like she'd become like a pseudo intellectual or at least start sleeping around or something.
Yeah. Well, I guess like in a sense, Summer in Brown regresses too, because I guess Che is like, because if you think about Summer first season, Summer is somebody who went along with like, Marissa was like the destructive one and Summer sort of just went along with it.
Right.
So I guess if you think of like Marissa dies and then Summer going along with Che is a regression as well. It's her trying to re-find herself. It's her trying to re-find herself, I guess, in a different context. Does that
that makes perfect sense, actually. You're right. That makes complete and total sense. I guess the grieving process was handled in that way, where everybody's trying to like basically going off script and out of character because they don't know how to deal post Marissa.
Right. And then Taylor's around and hanging out. Yeah, Taylor
gets married.
Taylor does get married, and then she gets divorced immediately when she comes back to California. And that ends up being an amazing plot line later.
This show and Married and Engaged Teenagers was something else. It's 2004 or 5 now. Like, who is wifing up all these 18, 19, 17-year-old girls?
So in episode 4, Ryan kisses Taylor for the first time, and we sort of see like him like finally have, I guess, a romantic interest in someone. Not that he's super ready to be with her, but because he's going through his own stuff. But the next episode is so worth it because Taylor just like Taylors, and at like 9 a.m. in the morning, she comes over to like the Cohen household with this like Bridget Bardot like hairstyle, and the girls are like pushed up, and she's like in this amazing dress just to bring Ryan coffee, and I'm just like, Taylor, I love you so much.
Yo, she's trying to get her man.
She's trying to get her man. Ryan does eventually, like in a tried and true like dream type episode, I think he and Taylor get like hit on the head, and they both go into like a coma in the hospital, and then they like share like the same dream together. It's actually it's weird. It's a weird episode that happens on the OC because because the type of episode it is, it's a hallmark of like soaps and then supernatural shows. I guess the OC is like a soap, but it's more for like a supernatural show, and it feels, I mean, I guess it works, but it still kind of feels out of place. Taylor and Ryan like share the same coma dream or whatever, with Taylor trying to get over her sort of hang-ups about her mother, and Ryan trying to get over his continued grief of Marissa.
I agree. I think the episode also felt kind of out of place, and it kind of felt like the writers were just like, we need to wrap this shit up, you guys. Make it sweet, make it hallmarky, like make it work.
Right, make it work. Seth proposes out of like fear, out of a sort of like bluff. Seth proposes to Summer and is not ready in any sense.
He never is.
He never is. But then Summer says yes. The way it happens is that like Seth thinks that Summer was going to say no, and then Summer knows that he wants her to say no, so then she says yes, and they're both trying to like chicken, like they're playing chicken with each other, and they're both, still going for it, and that is banana nuts within and of itself.
And it's so like on brand for their relationship, where like these hoes are constantly testing each other.
They are. Summer is even like, he wants me to break he wants me to break the engagement, but you know, I'm going full bridezilla. Like I'm not gonna say uncle. Also, Chris Brown shows up this season.
I wanted to forget that.
I guess like the OC, you know, and this will be like a hallmark of, I think, Stephanie Savage and Josh Schwartz shows, is that like 4 seasons in, because they'll realize, oh, we don't have any Black people on this show. We should probably put one in. Like, right. And thus Chris Brown. And it's weird to see Chris Brown, because so first Chris Brown plays like, I guess competently, I don't want to say it's good, it's just competent, plays this sort of like band nerd who's supposed to be like the antithesis to like Caitlyn's, like if Caitlyn is like this mean girl Regina George figure, which she very much is, Chris Brown's character is supposed to be like the like Black, I guess, Seth Cohen to her, like Regina George, which is strange now to watch.
Yeah, he was absolutely supposed to be like the Black Seth Cohen. And it kind of has the effect of like when you're baking something and you put it in the oven and then you forgot an ingredient and then you tried to add it like after it's already been baking for 10 minutes.
Right. It's strange now to see it. And I guess this happened at the time. This was like pre-Rihanna getting beat, but like, it's weird. It's just so weird to watch.
I'm okay with not seeing Black people in certain contexts. You understand me? These like plays for diversity and to get a Black demographic came off as exactly that and nothing else.
Right. I just, you know, and like I said, I'm of two minds of that. Like, I agree with that and I feel that, but I also know that like in practice, all that creates is just like Black, like they're just like, oh, okay, you said we don't have to, so now we won't have to, but we're not going to give you any like institutional help to make your own series either. Like, no, but like, that's just what happened. So, and that was definitely, I think, the case in like the early 2000s from 2000 to like 2015, I think.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And like I said, I think the problem is just so much more than casting. It goes to who's in the writer's room, who the showrunners are. I feel like it's a trickle down, like the shit just trickles down from the showrunner on down. You know, a showrunner like Julie Plec, and writers like the type she hired. And it trickles right on down to how the Black characters you have, even when you have them, you know, can be treated very, very poorly. So I think it all starts at the top and the shit just trickles on down. And this is why we don't just need Black representation on camera. We need it even more so, I think, behind camera.
Right. Like if there was like real institutional support, I think, of Black creators and Black writers and not just Black writers, but Black Indigenous people, Black people and Indigenous people and people of color in general. If there was like a real, like, okay, like we're going to do what we want to do, but like here, you guys can really have resources to do what you want to do. I think there could be parity, but that's not how Hollywood works because they're racist. So, I was going to say, so my favorite, so I think season 4 is, it's basic, it's fine. It's clearly like it's a wrap up season, trying to wrap up everything before the series finale. And I think, and my favorite episodes of season 4 are definitely must watches. I think are season 4, episode 1, The Avengers. Season 4, episode 5, The Sleeping Beauty. Season 4, episode 7, The And season 4, episode 10, The French Connection, which is an amazing amazing episode. Hilarious. Season 4, episode 11, The Dream Lover, and then season 4, episode 16, The End Is Not Near, It's Here.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those. I didn't like the last Chrismukkah episode, but I agree with like all the rest of those. So season 4, we think it's good, bad, or basic?
It's just basic. It's fine.
Yeah, I think it's basic as well. And that is also fine with me because I feel like if it's your very last season, you're allowed like to slip a little bit and be a little bit basic. We are all like, I'll give everybody like a grace season of basicness. Right. You can be alkaline for this one season, you guys.
For this one season. And I think because the series just had all these really long, I think because of those first 3 seasons had those like really long episode orders with like 25 episodes per season. I think it is absolutely fair for like season 4 to just slip.
Right. And, I just want to point this out to what Alex and I said about Marissa's death being necessary. Her being gone from the show is not why it became basic. As far as I'm concerned, it became basic because they were in college and the writers didn't know how to handle them being in college, like Alex said earlier. So, yeah, it was basic. But I'll still watch it, though. That's the thing. Like, it's basic, but it's by no stretch of the imagination bad. So I rewatched it and I was fine.
Right. There have absolutely been worse endings, final seasons. Definitely there have been worse final seasons. And there you have it, folks. This is everything that made the OC good, memorable, and a formula worth repeating.
The OC was and continues to be an oasis in a desert of bad writing and poorly developed characters. If you want to either check out or relive the series, it's currently streaming on Hulu.
If you haven't already, be sure to check out our patrons exclusive, the OC-inspired Spotify playlist, and tune in next week when we'll be discussing the CW's Gossip Girl. Look out for the next patrons-only season recap episode, which airs this Saturday, featuring Amazon Prime's The Boys. Em and I will be discussing what made the first season of this anti-superhero drama so binge-worthy.
Follow The Good, The Bad, The Basic pod on Spotify to listen to all of our regular weekly episodes on the go. If you love this sort of content, spread the word and become a show producer and patron on Patreon. Your support allows us to keep bringing you our regular weekly content as well as exclusive bonus material.
As always, be sure to check out our SoundCloud page, The Good, The Bad, The Basic, and of course, be sure to follow us at Good Bad Basic Pod on Twitter. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.